Very good afternoon, dear students. Today in the class of network analysis and synthesis, we are going to cover inverse Laplace transform. In our previous class, we had started with the concept of Laplace transform. We had seen the properties of Laplace transform, and we had also seen one or two examples of Laplace transform, that is how to obtain Laplace transform for a given time domain function. I hope all of you must have understood those concepts, and I had also told you to work out few examples from your mathematics book related to calculation of Laplace transform. So during weekend you must have practiced the calculation of Laplace transform. So to revise few important concepts again, let me tell you, Laplace transform converts your time domain function into frequency domain function, and the frequency which is involved in Laplace transform is a complex frequency in the form of S. So we had seen the integral equation of Laplace transform. So if I go back, I'll show you in the slide that this is the expression for your two-sided Laplace transform, and the lower one is the expression for one-sided Laplace transform. And the last properties that we had seen for Laplace transform, they were initial value theorem and final value theorem. So before we move to inverse Laplace transform, we will again see a few things just as to uh, reinforce your concept. Okay, so here in this slide I'm showing you the Laplace transform operations that we had discussed in the previous classes. We had seen the property of linearity. Okay, so if we have two functions added or subtracted in time domain, their Laplace transform will also be correspondingly added or subtracted. So if you have scalar multiplication, same multiplication takes place in Laplace transform as well. If you have time domain function differentiated, in that case your Laplace transform is SFS minus F0, where F0 is your initial condition of your time domain function. So similarly, if we generalize this time differentiation result, this is how it can be generalized, and we discussed this thing in the previous class also. So if your time domain function is integrated, that is your integration property, in that case your Laplace transform is divided by S. So in case of differentiation you have S multiplied, and in case of integration you have S in divide or as denominator. So initial conditions apart. So here also initial condition has been assumed to be 0. So if you take integral from minus infinity to t, in that case it will be fs by fs by s, and this is nothing but the contribution of your circuit from minus infinity to 0. So in a way the initial condition before you start with the circuit. So here also it is 1 by s. Okay, so then we had seen the time shifting theorem of Laplace transform. So there we had seen that if instead of t you take t minus a, that is shift in time, so what will happen in the frequency domain, it will be multiplication by e raised to power minus s as. So if you have minus a here, in case of time shifting you will have minus a. Then we have frequency shifting theorem. So there, if you multiply your time domain function with e raised to power minus at, then in frequency domain it will be f of s plus a. So s will be replaced by plus a, s plus a. Okay, so here in frequency domain, or sorry, frequency shifting, what happens if you have e raised to power minus at, you will have s plus a. Okay, so this difference you need to note down between your time shift and frequency shift. Okay, so in the same way you can apply these properties. So where duality concept is applied, so here we call that duality as frequency differentiation and frequency integration. So in the previous slide we had seen time differentiation and time integration. Here it is frequency differentiation and frequency integration. So just by uh, applying duality concept, we can come to this particular result. Okay, then another important property is scaling property. So if you scale in time, that is ft becomes fat. This a is not multiplied with ft, t has become at. You must have studied such things in your mathematics. So in that case, this will be the result, that is f of s by a, and outside you have 1 by a. So this is important concept. You can prove this also by using the integral expression of Laplace transform. Then we have discussed initial value theorem and final value theorem. Initial value is nothing but f0 and final value is f infinity. So if you have initial value, that is time equal to 0, we'll take s tends to infinity. And if we have t tend to infinity, we'll take s tend to 0. And your s tends to infinity in SFS, similarly s tends to 0 in SFS. So this is your initial value theorem and your final value theorem with the help of Laplace transform. Then in the previous class also we had talked about convolution theorem. I told you that one of the most important advantage of using transform approach is the simplification with regard to convolution. So if you have convolution in time, in frequency domain, it becomes multiplication. So here you can see f1t and f2t, they are convolved. This is convolution operation. You must have studied in detail this convolution operation in your mathematics also. So convolution is a complex integral expression which becomes simple multiplication if you do that in your transform approach, either in Laplace transform or in your Fourier transform or any other transform. The same kind of result is obtained. So your convolution operation becomes multiplication when you carry out transform. Okay. So these are your recap of properties of Laplace transform. Then few simple examples we had discussed in previous classes, where we calculated the Laplace transform of your impulse function. We had calculated the Laplace transform of your unit step function. So we had seen that thing in detail. So Laplace transform of impulse is 1, Laplace transform of unit step is 1 by s. Then this is your ramp function, this is your 1 by s square. So I had given you some homework also, and I hope all of you must have derived the answers or the Laplace transforms of the time domain functions which are given here. A few examples I will also hurriedly consider in today's class as well. So this is numerical example. Uh, I think I had covered this example in last class also, but just for the sake of repetition and reinforcement of your concept, I consider it again. So we have to find out Laplace transform of a time domain function ft, which is defined as 2 times u of t minus 3. Okay, so students, here you can solve this numerical by two ways. One is by applying your integral expression directly, and second is you can use the properties of Laplace transform also. First, let us discuss this by using simple expression for your Laplace transform. So since we observe here that this is a unit step function, or in other words, you can say time shifted unit step function. And we know that unit step function exists from t equal to 0 to infinity. Okay. So if you take single sided Laplace transform, this is the expression, that is integral 0 to infinity e raised by minus st ft dt. Okay. So 0 to infinity e raised by minus st as it is, and you substitute in place of ft your twice of ut minus 3. This we have substituted here. So if we do that, we know that ut is equal to 1 for t greater than 0. So here we have ut minus 3. So how we define ut minus 3? Ut minus 3 is defined like this, that it is equal to 1 for t greater than equal to 3. Okay, so for t greater than equal to 3, it will be 1. This is your ut minus 3, and it will be 0 otherwise. So that's why if you see that your limits of integration has been changed from 0 to 3, the lower limit, and upper is infinity only, and this ut minus 3 it becomes 1. Okay, 2 comes outside, so we have 2 times integral 3 to infinity e raised to power minus st dt. And if you solve, this is a simple integration. You get minus 1 by s outside, 2 was already there. E raised to power minus st gives you e raised to power minus st upon s. You put the limits of integration, and this is what you get at the answer. Okay, and one straightforward solution could be by using the properties of Laplace transform. So here, if you see, we are using time shifting property. So if you again have a look at the time shifting property, let us see here that if you have f of t minus a, okay, so if you have f of t minus a, we get e raised to power minus as and fs. Fs is the Laplace transform of ft, okay, and you multiply with e raised to power minus as. So same thing we do here. So what is ft? Here our ft is ut, okay, and the Laplace transform of ut is what? The Laplace transform of ut is 1 by s. This is we know. And now we need to find out the Laplace transform of u of t minus 3, means time shifting. So if we do that, the Laplace transform of ut minus 3, it will come out to be, this was 1 by s. Now we have e raised to power, okay, minus as. Okay, so here we have that was t minus a e raised to power minus as. So you have here minus 3, so you'll have minus 3s. Okay, and multiplied with fs. Fs is what? 1 by s, that is e raised to power minus 3s by s. This is what we get as the Laplace transform of ut minus 3. And what we want Laplace transform of 2 times ut minus 3. So if you multiply with 2 here, your answer will also be multiplied with 2. So this is the same answer as you have calculated by using your Laplace integral expression. Okay, I hope this is very simple thing and all of you are pretty clear about the solution. Next, let us move forward. So now we will look at one example where we find out the final value of given function. Okay, so here we have to determine f infinity. See students, notice one thing, this f is small. Small means your time domain functions, they are also always represented as small letters. So your time domain will be small f and your frequency domain will always be capital F. Okay, so this notation you have to memorize. So here it is small f infinity, means it is a time domain function which is to be evaluated at t equal to infinity, means the final value. Okay, and we have to determine the final value of this one. So our ft is 1 minus e raised to power minus at ut. This is our ft. Okay, and what does our final value theorem says? So if we look at that theorem, let us go backward. See here, for f infinity, we want SFS. So first we need Fs. So once we have that SFS, then we will substitute S tends to 0. So let us see that. Let us first obtain Fs, and then we will be able to find out f infinity. So our given function is 1 minus e raised by minus at ut. So let us simplify this. If you do that, it becomes, you open up the bracket, you get ut minus e raised to power minus at multiplied with ut. So if you open up the braces, you get this one. Okay, so this is nothing but two functions in time domain. You can apply linearity property. You can find out their individual Laplace transform, and then you will get the answer. So what is that? See here, this is the Laplace transform of ut, that is 1 by s, and here ut is multiplied with e raised to minus at. So which property we come across? This is nothing but frequency shifting property. So here you have minus a, in frequency you'll have plus a. So the Laplace transform of e raised to power minus at ut will be 1 upon s plus a. Okay, so 1 upon s has been changed to 1 upon s plus a. And since there was minus sign in between, you also have minus sign. Now you take LCM, s into s plus a, and in the numerator you get this. So this is what you get as fs. This is fs. Now, in order to find out the final value theorem, we need SFS, this one, SFS. So we need to multiply this expression with S. So S will be cancelled. You'll be left with A upon S plus A. This is your SFS. And in this SFS term, we need to substitute the limit S tends to 0. Means we have to make S approach 0. So if you do that, this S will be cancelled and A by A will be nothing but 1. So what does it mean? That the final value theorem tells us that F infinity is equal to 1. This is the answer. Okay, so this is how we apply final value theorem by using Laplace transform. Okay, so dear students, after discussing the previous numerical, now we need to find out Laplace transform of few functions. I had given you this as homework also. I hope all of you must have tried these functions, but just for the sake of understanding of all the students, I will hurriedly cover their solution in today's class, so that if there is any confusion, that thing is removed. Okay, so I'll take up one by one. It will just take 2 minutes. Things are very, very simple. So let us consider the first numerical, where we have to find out Laplace transform of t times ut. This is nothing but ramp function. Okay, so as I told you previously also, the ut means unit step, and it is multiplied with t. That means your ramp function exists for t greater than 0. This is your ramp function. So here you need to apply your single-sided Laplace transform, where your limits will be from 0 to infinity. You will substitute ft as t, then e raised to power minus st dt. So this is the integral expression that you need to evaluate. So here, since there are two time domain function, you will have to apply integration by parts. You take t as your first function, and you take e raised by minus st as your second function. And if you do that, then what will you get? If you solve this integration, you will have first function as it is, integration of second function, that is your e raised power minus st, okay, divided by minus s. So this is you get as the first expression, and you will apply the limits of integral from 0 to infinity. Then you will have minus, under the sign of integration you will have differentiation of first function. So differentiation of t is nothing but 1. Then you will have integration of second function, that is your e raised to power minus st divided by minus s. Okay, and then you have one more integral. So if you do that, your this minus minus will become plus. Second integration will give you one more minus sign, and you will get minus of 1 by s square, okay, and multiplied with e raised to power minus st. Okay, and your limits of integral you'll have to substitute from 0 to infinity. Okay, and what about this part? if you look at this thing carefully, if you substitute infinity limit, e raised by minus st will become 0. If you substitute 0, t will become 0. So in nutshell, this term will be 0. And if you substitute limits of this one here, if you substitute infinity, this will become 0. And if you substitute 0, it will be minus 1. Minus minus become plus, and we get as an answer 1 by s square. So this we also have seen in our Laplace transform pairs, that your Laplace transform of unit ramp function is 1 by s square. Okay, I hope it is very clear. Fine. Now let us find out the Laplace transform of t e raised by minus at ut. Students, try to correlate with your first question, that is at serial number A. So here if you see TUT is the same thing, what you have done, you have multiplied simply by e raised by minus AT, which is nothing but frequency shifting property. So the Laplace transform of TUT is what? 1 by s square. Okay, fine. So now we need to find out Laplace transform of TUT multiplied with e raised by minus AT. So if you apply frequency shifting theorem, this 1 by s square, s will become s plus a. So your answer will be 1 by s plus a square. Okay. So this will be the answer for your second question. Just by looking at frequency shifting property, you are able to arrive at the solution. I hope both these numericals are very clear to all of you. Now let us move forward. So now let us see example number C, where we have ut minus tau. So here we will first apply linearity property. So if we do that, we'll first find out the Laplace transform of ut, then we will find out Laplace transform of ut minus tau. We know the Laplace transform of ut is nothing but straightforward 1 by s, then minus, what will be the Laplace transform of ut minus tau? So you look at this thing carefully, you have a time shifting property. So if you do that, the Laplace transform of ut is nothing but 1 by s, and the Laplace transform of ut minus tau will be, you'll have one exponent term multiplied, which is nothing but e raised to power minus tau s. This is what you get, and you can take 1 by s common. Okay, and then inside the bracket you have 1 minus e raised to power minus tau s. Okay, so this is the answer for your third numerical, that is ut minus tau. Fine. Next we move to your example number D. So here we have sine hyperbolic. So this is hyperbolic function, you know, sine hyperbolic, cos hyperbolic, sine hyperbolic bt ut. See, in all these numerical, the significance of ut is just this thing, that you have to apply single-sided Laplace transform, means you have to keep your limits from 0 to infinity instead of minus infinity to infinity. Okay, so we will not give much emphasis to this ut in that way. We will simply concentrate on the other part of this question. So sine hyperbolic bt. So students, I told you in the previous class also, the best way to obtain Laplace transform of trigonometric functions is to convert them to your exponential function. So you must be knowing the exponential representation for your hyperbolic function. So if you have some hyperbolic function, say sine hyperbolic x, if you have this much one, it will be represented exponentially like this, e raised to power x minus e raised to power minus x divided by 2. This is your exponential representation for sine hyperbolic x. So what we have now here, x is nothing but bt. Okay, so if you do that, this will become e raised to power bt minus e raised to power minus bt, okay, and divide by 2. And students, see here, now this is ut. So if you multiply this thing with ut, you will get 1 by 2 common. You keep it like this, okay, inside bracket. What will be the first term? E raised to power bt multiplied with ut, okay, this one, e raised to power bt multiplied with ut. So the Laplace transform of ut, you know, 1 by s, and now you need to find out Laplace transform of e raised to power bt ut, okay. So again, you need to apply the frequency shifting property, okay. So if you apply frequency shifting property, what will be the result here? You will have, um, just just a minute, you see, frequency shifting property. Frequency shifting, if you multiply with minus a, you will get plus a. If you multiply with plus a, you will get minus a. So what we have plus b, so you will have 1 by s of minus b, okay. Then minus sign here. Here you have e raised to power minus b, okay. So you will get 1 by s plus b. This is what you get. Now you can directly simplify this, okay. So if you simplify that, your answer will directly come out to be your s square minus b square, okay. And in the numerator you will have your b and b will be cancelled, 2 will also be cancelled. You will get simply, just a minute, minus sign is there, so s will be cancelled, b will remain as it is. So this will be the answer for your sine hyperbolic bt ut. So this is the simple solution for your sine hyperbolic bt function, okay. Now let us move to cos hyperbolic. So in case of cos, the only difference is, again we will represent cos hyperbolic in the form of exponents. So that will be e raised to power x, okay, plus, instead of minus you will have plus, e raised to power minus x, okay, divided by 2. So this is the only difference between your sine hyperbolic and cos hyperbolic. So if you do that and look at this expression, so in a way you can say that this minus will become plus for cos. So if you do that plus, so then in the numerator b will be cancelled, and your answer for cos hyperbolic will come out to be, instead of b we will have s, so s by s square, okay, minus b square. This is the answer for your uh, numerical number e. That is Laplace transform of cos hyperbolic bt will be nothing but s by s square minus b square. Okay. So I hope everything is clear up to this point. And in the last class, I had also briefly explained about simple sine and simple cosine function also. So that also we need to look into here. So let us have a look at that thing. So now we will find out the Laplace transform of sine omega naught t ut. So the way we did representation for sine hyperbolic, cos hyperbolic, in the same way we'll do it for simple sine and simple cosine. But there is a difference. Your simple sine is represented exponentially like this. It will be e raised power j. You'll have complex number j omega naught t minus e raised to power minus j omega naught t, okay, divided by 2j. You can call it as j or iota. one and the same thing. This result you must have studied in your mathematics as well. So once you have converted this sine omega naught t into exponent, it is just a simple thing to obtain the Laplace transform. So if you apply Laplace transform to this, what you will have? You will have 1 by 2j common, just in the same way as we have done for hyperbolic. So the Laplace transform of this will be, you have ut multiplied, so that is 1 by s. You have plus here, you will have minus there. So 1 by s of minus j omega naught. Okay. This is for first term. For second term, you will have minus sign in between. So here you will have 1 upon s plus j omega naught. So 1 upon s plus j omega naught. Okay. This is what you get for this. And if you take the LCM, this s minus j omega omega naught into s plus j omega naught, this will give us s square plus omega naught square. Okay, this is the denominator. In the numerator, you will have SS cancelled, you will have 2j omega naught, and 2j will be cancelled. So you will have this omega naught. Okay, so this will be the answer for your Laplace transform of sine omega naught t ut. And in the similar fashion, if you carry out for cos omega naught t, there will be one difference in the exponential representation. So that difference will be, you will have only 2 in the denominator. Okay, and then instead of minus here, you will have a plus. Okay, so this is your plus. So you have e raised power j omega naught t, fine, plus e raised power minus j omega naught t 2. This is the expression that we have. Okay, and if we modify this for cosine, what we have done for this, you will get the answer for this as your, instead of omega naught, you will have s. So it will be s upon s square plus omega naught square. Okay, so this is the answer that you get for this. So in this way, we have seen the solution of all these 7 time domain function, and we have obtained their Laplace transform. Now we move forward to our inverse Laplace transform. Okay, so this is what we have in inverse Laplace transform. So dear students, in your signals and system subject, you must have studied about your inverse Fourier transform also. Okay, so in the same way, we have inverse Laplace transform. Okay, so in case of inverse Laplace transform, we will use certain properties in order to obtain Laplace transform, inverse Laplace transform. So in case of inverse, what will happen? This Fs, this will become small ft. Okay, the roles will be reversed, you can say. Then this ft, this will become capital Fs. Okay, your limits will be from minus infinity to infinity. Dt will become your ds. Okay, and this minus s will become your plus s. So this is how your inverse Laplace transform look like. But here in inverse Laplace, we will not calculate integral expressions. We will use certain techniques in order to obtain inverse Laplace transform. One technique will be, we already have studied the Laplace transform pairs. We also have studied the properties of Laplace transform. So if we know, or if we remember the Laplace transform of a time domain function, then if you are given Laplace transformed function in the form of S domain, then you can directly apply that result and obtain the corresponding time domain function. And that will be clear from some examples also. Okay. So let us see. The first property that we will use in inverse Laplace is additive property. We have seen that, or you can say linearity property, the Laplace transform of f1t plus f2t will be f1s plus f2s. So if we know that the inverse Laplace will be represented as L inverse. Okay, so L inverse v1s plus v2s. This L inverse can be applied to v1s, v2s individually like this. This is known as additive property, and you can obtain Laplace inverse of v1s as v1t, and this is v2t. Again, notice this thing, that in S domain v1 and v2 are capital, and in T domain v1 and v2 are your small. Okay, so this property basically tells you that if you can split your S domain function into some simpler function, you can apply the results that you have obtained with respect to Laplace transform. Okay, second is the homogeneity property, according to which if you have k time your time domain function multiplied in Laplace, it will also be directly multiplied with k. Okay, so same is the case in inverse Laplace also. Okay, and now let us see one numerical example here that will give you an idea how to obtain inverse Laplace transform, that is GT. So we have been given S domain function, that is capital GS, which is 7 by S minus 31 by S plus 17, and we have to obtain GT. Students, try to understand this terminology and your notations, so that just by looking at the expression, you should be in a position to at once find out that what is expected. So we have two functions, one is 7 by S and another is 31 by S plus 17. We will apply linearity property or additive property. So Laplace inverse of 7 by S we have to obtain separately, then Laplace inverse of this one. Okay, if you look at this thing carefully, just a minute. If you look at this thing carefully, this 7 is a constant multiplied, that is your k. 7 into 1 by S. Okay, 7 you can take outside. Laplace inverse of 1 by S, you already know that 1 by S is the Laplace transform of ut. So inverse of 1 by S is nothing but ut. So Laplace inverse of 7 by S is nothing but 7 ut. Okay, now you look at this term carefully. So here 31 is a constant, you need not worry about. You have S plus 17. So here S plus 17 or S minus 17 means frequency shifting. So it means frequency shifting property has been applied. And if you recall your frequency shifting property, if you have S plus 17, so in time domain, you will have e raised to power minus 17. So this is what you get here. 31 is a constant which has come directly. For this S plus 17, your frequency shifting property will be like, if you reverse that property, you will get e raised to power minus 17t, and S is nothing but ut. So your answer is 31 e raised to power minus 17t into ut. Okay, now you have two results. One is 7 ut, another is 31 e raised to power minus 17 ut. By applying additive property, you can directly come at this result. Ut can be taken as common, and inside you are left with 7 minus 31 e raised to power minus 17 t. Okay, fine. So students, after discussing this numerical example, we move forward. So our next important concept is your partial fraction. Okay, so this was a simple example which applied the concepts of, you can say, simple Laplace transform things, but this partial fraction is, you can say, a bit advanced or bit difficult, not difficult I should say, that will help us in obtaining inverse Laplace transform in most of the cases. So that's why this is important concept. I hope you must have studied this partial fraction approach in your mathematics books also. I asked you to revise from mathematics book, but still let us recap that thing here again. All of you know what is the meaning of rational function. Your rational function can be expressed in the form of you can say polynomials in S, that is your ns by ds. Ns is numerator and ds is your denominator. Okay, both are polynomial in S, that you already know. Okay, one new thing that you need to know is the roots of numerator, okay, that is ns, those are known as zeros, and the roots of denominator, that is ds, these are known as poles. This is very important concept. You need to memorize for the time being, and very frequently you will come across these terms, zeros and poles, when we discuss topics in the further chapters. Okay, so right now you can uh, consider that the roots of numerator are 0 and roots of denominator are known as poles. Okay, and another important thing for this rational function we have to, or for partial fraction to apply, is that the degree of numerator must be less than denominator. Okay, so means since ns and ds, they are polynomial in S, so numerator degree will be less than denominator. Okay, so this thing will be clear also, and if it is not less, you will have to split that fraction or rational function so that this condition is satisfied. So you will not apply partial fraction unless this condition is satisfied. So it is written on your slides also. If not, we'll have to perform a simple division and then split vs so that this condition is satisfied. So this is the condition for application of partial fraction. Now let us see one very simple example. We have to obtain the Laplace transform of 2 times s plus 2 by s. So this s plus 2 is nothing but, this is your numerator, this s is your denominator, and if you see the degree of both these polynomials in S, that is your 1, that is same. So it means partial fraction cannot be applied directly. We will have to split it. So if we do that, we split it like this. You divide by S. So S by S is 1. You are left with 2. Then 2 to 4. So this becomes 4 by S. So we have split this rational function into 2, and it becomes 2 plus 4 by s. And now if you look at this thing carefully, the degree of s in the numerator is 0 and degree of s in denominator is 1. So our condition is satisfied. So now you can directly obtain the Laplace transform, inverse Laplace transform for this. 2 is a constant. Okay, constant means you can consider 2 like this, that is 2 multiply with 1. Okay, so 2 will come out. So you have to obtain Laplace transform of inverse Laplace of 2. So 2 will come out, you are left with 1. And we know that 1 is the Laplace transform of delta t, that is impulse function. So it means the inverse Laplace of 1 will be impulse. So you see here that 2 as it is, and inverse Laplace of 1 is nothing but delta t. Okay, and here you see Laplace inverse of 4 by s. 4 is a constant which will remain as it is, and 1 by s comes out to be inverse Laplace as ut. So this is the answer for Laplace inverse of 2 plus 4 by s will be 2 delta t plus 4 ut. Okay, so after this, now if we move forward, this is the generalized approach for partial fraction. So students, the last example and the points that we discussed in the last slide, those were very simple thing. We had seen, or we had split our rational function into such terms where we could directly obtain our inverse Laplace, but we need to generalize because we may come across polynomials in S in such a way that they are not that easy to solve. So let us see that your in generalized approach, your partial fraction Fs can be expressed as Ps and Qs. So this is nothing but, you can see here, this is a polynomial in S. This is also a polynomial in S. And see, this is the condition that I deliberated upon in the last slide, that your degree of numerator must be less than degree of denominator. So this m, it must be less than n for your partial fraction to be applied. Okay, now our first job for partial fraction is we have to determine the roots of QS, means roots of denominator. And roots of denominator, as I told you in the previous slide also, those are known as poles. So we need to determine the poles, okay, or the roots of QS. So now we know that we all have studied quadratic equation, we have studied your third order equation. So in most of the cases here also you will come across second order or third order equation whose roots could be, you can say, distinct, means separate roots. Your roots could be repeated roots, your roots could be real, or your roots could be complex number. Okay, so you may have different kind of roots of or different kinds of poles of your you can say partial fraction. Okay, and depending on the roots that you are finding out, the corresponding technique of partial fraction will apply. Okay, so let us first take the case of distinct roots, means the roots that we find out by factorizing QS, all the roots are different. Okay, they are different and they are real also. So we are taking this case distinct and real. Okay, so we can assume this thing that your QS is equal to this one, S plus P1 into S plus P2 into S plus P your N. Since it is nth order equation, there will be n number of roots. And I think this is very simple concept. You know, we have expressed this polynomial in the form of its factors or in the form of its roots. Okay, now partial fraction means we have to split or we have to represent this Fs, that is Ps by Qs, like this. This is known as partial fraction. Means we have to express Fs as A1. A1 is some constant we do not know right now. So A1 by S, see, look at the denominator carefully. All the denominators are separated, or you can say are the separate or distinct roots. This is S plus P1, this is S plus P2, this is S plus, you can say Pk or S plus Pn. And A1, A2, An, they are constant. Okay, so this is what we are aiming at. If we are able to split our expression into this, our job will be very, very simple. You all know that. What is S plus P1? Frequency shifting theorem. Here also frequency shifting, here also frequency shifting. A1, A2, An, they are simple constants. You can directly write your inverse Laplace transform equation. Okay, so now how to determine this constant? See, you must have got the idea now. What is our job? We have to find out the roots of QS. Then second step will be, we will have to express that expression in the form of partial fraction like this. Then third step will be the determination of these constants, that is A1 to An. So how do we find out these constants? So if we want to find out A2, for example, if we want to find out A2, what we will do, we will multiply Fs with S plus P2. Okay, see, here we want to find out AK. We are multiplying Fs with S plus Pk. We multiply that, and then after multiplying, we substitute the value of that root. And what is the value of this root? That is minus P2. Here it is, the value of the root is minus Pk. You substitute this value, you will find out AK. So in this way, we will keep on finding out the various constants, and we will express our Fs as partial fraction like this, and we will be able to obtain our inverse Laplace transform. Okay. So students, after discussing this, now let us move forward. So this is an example. Okay. So this is our Fs. Here it is represented as Ps, which is 7s plus 5 divided by s square plus s. So this is your numerator and this is your denominator. First thing we have to check whether degree of numerator is less than denominator. It is true, so we need not worry about. So now we need to find out the roots of QS. So our QS is nothing but S square plus S. So we have to find its root. So one thing is very clear from here, we can take S common. We can write this as S into S plus 1. Okay. So how many roots are there? One is S equal to 0 and another is S equal to minus 1. So we have got two factors. Okay. So see, this is what you have done here. So we have two distinct roots. हमें दो distinct roots मिल गए हैं. Okay, so what we can do, we can express this expression as sum of two fractions, where it is a by s, you have written this s separately, then b by s plus 1. We do not know right now what will be the value of a and b. Okay, but we have written it as a by s plus b by s plus 1. See, I'll show you the previous slide again. See, these were the roots. S plus P1, S plus P2, S plus, we have written as multiplication, and then we have, what we have done, we have split our expression in the form of those roots only. A1 divided by S plus P1 plus A2 divided by second root, then AN divided by S plus PN. So here also we have done this thing. We have two roots, S into S plus 1. We have written it as A by S plus B by S plus 1. Simply without looking at anything, we simply split that thing in its roots with some constants in the numerator. Now our job is to find out A and B, and let us do that. This is the expression which is written again. As I told you, we have to determine the value of A. In order to determine the value of A, what we have to do, let us again look at the previous slide. In order to find out the constant AK, we have to multiply its root pk, s plus pk with fs. Okay, now let us see. This was the expression, 7s plus 5 divided by s square plus s, or this is the expression which I am representing with this your square. Okay, now you have to find out A is a constant for s, so we have to multiply this expression with s. So if you multiply with s, s and s will be cancelled. You will be left with 7s plus 5 divided by s plus 1. And you have to substitute value of this root. Well, the value of this root is s plus 0, that is 0. So if you put 0, this is 0, this is 0, what you will be left with? You will be left with 5 by 1, that is 5. The value of A is 5. Now we need to find out value of B. So what we have to do? We have to multiply this expression with the root of B, and root of B is s plus 1. If you multiply this with s plus 1, s plus 1 will be cancelled. You will be left with 7s plus 5 divided by s. And we need to substitute the value of the root. The value of root is s equal to minus 1. So you substitute minus 1. If you substitute minus 1, 7 into minus 1 is minus 7 plus 5, that is minus 2. And in the denominator you have minus 1. So minus 2 by minus 1 is your nothing but 2. So your A is 5 and your B is 2. So you simply put A as 5, B as 2. Now what is this? 5 by S. This is nothing but 5 UT. 5 UT. What is this? 2 upon S plus 1. 2 is a constant. Okay. And S plus 1, which is nothing but frequency shifting, means e raised to power minus t. This is frequency shifting, and 1 by S is your UT. So this gives you 2 raised to power e minus t into UT, and this was 5 UT. So this is what you get as answer. 5 plus 2 e raised to power minus t and UT common outside. Okay. So I hope this concept is very, very clear to all of you. Students, we stop here. I will advise that you again look at your mathematics book. You also go through with your network analysis and synthesis book, and try to basically revise few numericals. Also read the topics related to partial fraction, and we will continue in the next class with our inverse Laplace transform. Okay. So thank you very much. I stop here. We will continue in the next class. Okay, thank you.